All right, here we go. Thursday's class. Go ahead and get out your homework. Remember, it was the Chapter 9 review. It was the even problems. So, as always, I'm going to show you the answers. You're going to check your work, and then you're going to go to Google Forms, answer question number 1, which is, how many did you get wrong? So there are the answers. Anybody out there do all the word problems? There were 3 of them. I didn't say you had to do the odd one, but you could have. All right, check your answers and then answer question 1 on the Google Forms. Okay, here's what it looks like. We're going to start chapter 10 today. We'll get to 2A tomorrow. If nothing changes, then we take a spring break. We come back, we do CMAS prep, take CMAS, then we'll get back to chapter 10. I don't know any more than you do of what our future holds, but this is what I'm planning for. I will let you know as soon as possible if there are any changes. All right, let's make this happen. All right, here's your homework. It is a worksheet. You will find the worksheet at the bottom of the Google Forms. As always, you can print it out if you so desire. You can open it up in a different window, write down your answers. We'll do the same thing tomorrow. We'll check our answers. You know the drill by now. As always, it's a video. Pause if I'm talking too fast. Rewind. Play it multiple times. Send me emails if you need help on anything. A few of you are sending me emails. Anna was the first one yesterday to fix that one mistake. But I had at least 7 emails from other students as well, too. So Anna gets the point. Okay, here we go. This is a fun, I really like this chapter. It's a fun chapter. Then again, I am a math teacher. This is going to be called Graphing Inequalities. We did a little bit of this last year. It's going to get really messy this year. And I kind of like it. It's fun. All right, there's 4 objectives today. I need you to be able to write an inequality from a phrase or sentence. You determine if the value of a solution is a solution to an inequality. And then I'm going to show you how to graph inequalities and then write inequalities. If I give you a graph, you have to write that inequality. Those are the 4 objectives. All right, so grab your notes. Let's do some writing here. All right, let's contrast first inequalities with equalities. Well, here's an equality. Madison, how do I know this is an equality? Well, yeah, agreed, but it's literally as simple as the fact that it has an equal sign. What makes it an equality is as an equal sign. The consequences of that is that by definition, the left side has to equal the right side, left-hand side, right-hand side. So the value of the left-hand side, 2 plus 6 is 8, has to be equal to the other side. And in this case, it is. When that's true, you are allowed to put an equal sign, or in fact, you must put an equal sign. Well, let's contrast that with inequalities. Well, inequality still compares a left side with a right side, but this time one of them is going to be bigger than the other, so therefore we can't put an equal sign. So we're still going to have a left-hand side and a right-hand side, but you're going to have 4 choices to make. Okay, the less than sign, the greater than sign, the less than or equal to sign, or the greater than or equal sign. For those of you that paid no attention to me last year in school, remember we read inequalities from left to right for the sign. For the sign itself, those 4 that are on the screen right now, if we go from left to right, the first one, the top one, is the less than symbol. All right, back to, 4th or 5th grade when this was first introduced to you, they talked about an alligator, and the alligator's mouth is the greater than symbol. Okay, so if you come to the mouth first, that's the greater than, the other one's the less than. We have those other 2, less than or equal to or greater than or equal to, and we'll see how those are used. Okay, so that's the less than, that's the greater than, that's the less than or equal to, that's the greater than or equal to, and any one of those 4 signs goes between the left-hand side and the right-hand side depending upon their values. There's your quick review of what you should know so far about inequalities. All right, so inequalities, well, that's not an inequality, that's an equal sign. For equalities, you are allowed to write the equality 2 ways, either x equals 4, or you can flip the left and the right-hand side. Both of those are exactly the same. In inequality world, write this down, please. In inequality world, we can do the same thing, but the difference is if you flip the x and the 4, the x is supposedly, in this one, smaller than 4. So if you flip the x and the 4, you also have to flip the inequality. The same thing if it was greater than or equal to. If you flip those two, right, here's your two examples of them both written in an opposite manner, you can't leave the same inequality. You have to flip the inequality. Does that make sense? So how do you read these things? So if we read these inequalities from left to right, the first one, the top yellow one, says x is less than 4. The bottom one says 4 is greater than x. But you can read these from left to right or right to left. If we read both of the yellow ones from right to left, it says 4 is greater than x. And the bottom one says x is less than 4. And same thing with the blue ones. Okay, does that make sense? Okay. Throughout this chapter, we're going to read them both ways. And just like equalities, it doesn't matter where the variable goes, left or right. It doesn't matter with the inequality, just as long as the symbol, the inequality symbol, has the correct orientation. Okay. All right. So first game we're going to play is I'm going to give you some text, and you're going to write an inequality statement from that text. We have done this before. We've done this with equalities at the start of the book. I don't know. I think we did it in chapter 1 or chapter 2. We're going to do the same thing with inequality. For equalities, remember we're always looking for the word is, and is the equal sign. For inequalities, well, it's a bit simpler. The words kind of describe specifically. We don't have to look for some keyword like is. We just read it. Notice this one says all real numbers x less than or equal to. Well, it's pretty clear which symbol they want you to use there, less than or equal to. So all real numbers x less than or equal to -7. Okay, there's example 1. Example number 2, 6 less than a number is greater than 13. And here comes problem number 1. Notice there's a less than and a greater than verbiage in that one little phrase right there. So this is where a little bit of common sense comes into play. 6 less than a number k. If I just read that part, 6 less than a number k, it's not saying 6 is less than a number k. It's saying 6 less than a number k. So I need to subtract 6 from the number k. The rest of that phrase or sentence right there is greater than, hey, there's an is, literally, is greater than 13. Okay? So these are a little bit tricky for those of you that have problems reading. This can be your biggest challenge for today. All right, let's do a couple more. If you want to, pause it, write what you think it is, and then check yours to mine. So let's see. All real numbers p greater than or equal to 1.5. All real numbers p, well, that would be p. Greater than or equal to, that's kind of obvious. What symbol? Then 1.5. So that's the easy one. This is the more challenging one. The sum of t and 7 is less than -3. Sum of t and 7, that would be t plus 7. You technically could write 7 plus t because addition is commutative. Less than is the less than symbol, -3. There you go. Okay, so there's your, 4 quick examples. In the Google Forms, question number 2 states, what are the answers to all these? So there's 4 statements there. I need you to write in the Google Forms the 4 answers. So go ahead and pause the video, answer this, and then come back to check your answers. How'd you do? Some of these are easier than others, okay? So let's see. The first one, 7 is greater than, 7 is greater. So 7 greater than or equal to x, okay? Second one, 4 more than y, 4 more than y. That would be 4 plus y, or y plus 4, it's commutative, less than x. The quotient of 4 and c. Quotient means what? Multiplication or division. It means division. In Algebra 1 world, we never use the division symbol. We always use the fraction bar. So the quotient of 4 and c, whenever you see the word quotient, it goes in exact order. The first thing listed is the numerator. The second thing listed is the denominator. So the quotient of 4 and c is greater than 10. And the last one, 5 less than the product of 2 and x. So 2 things going there. 5 less. 5 less means -5. The product of 2 and x means 2 times x. So 2x minus 5 less than or equal to 0. How'd you guys do? Okay, these take a little bit of practice. There's a few of them that'll be tricky on the homework, but for the most part, it's not too bad. All right, objective number 2, determine if a value is a solution to an inequality. So, solutions to inequality is any number that makes the inequality true. I mean, any number. Remember, in equality land, there's only one number that makes things true. But in an inequality world, there are lots of numbers that can make this true. For instance, I don't know, McKinley, give me a number that makes that true. What did you say? 4,375,000,600. Yeah, we get the idea. Okay, that's right. So that's one of many. I'm going to keep it simple and just simply, I don't know, 2. Uh, does 2 make this true? Sure. How about -2? Does -2 make this true? Is -2 greater than or equal to -5? No, 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 no. Is 175 greater than or equal to 1.5? Yep. How about 1.5? Now here's where you got to put your thinking cap on. 1.5 is not greater than 1.5, but it is equal to. So for this particular inequality, 1.5 does make it true. Does that make sense? Okay, if not, send me an email. I'll try to explain it better. All right, one more time. I'll give you an inequality. Uh-oh, bunch of stuff going on there. And I'll give you some numbers. You're just going to say yay or nay, yay or nay. So let's see if -4 makes this true. I mean, the easiest way is just to substitute the -4 in for the x value to see if it makes it true. So let's see. 2 times -4 is -8. -8 plus 1 is -7. Is -7 greater than -3? Nope, it is not. So that one's a no. Does that make sense? Okay. Let's do another one. Does -1 make this true or false? Well, let's see. We substitute -1 in for x. 2 times -1 is -2. -2 plus 1 is -1. Is -1 greater than -3? You know, the ones that are always going to give you the problems are the when there's negatives involved. And so just remember, in the negative world, the smaller the number, right, 1 and 3, the larger the value for negatives. Does that make sense? The smaller the number, the larger the value, if we're talking about in absolute value terms. Now, the number itself, -1 and -3, right, the specific number, -1 has a larger value. So the smaller the number, the larger the value. Okay, so this one is yeah, that one's a yes. Okay, next box in Google Form, I gave you 4 potential answers. Go ahead and see if it makes it true or false. True or false. Go ahead, pause the video. All right, how'd you do? Well, let's see. Throw in -1. -1 times -7 is +7. That gives me 20, and 20 is clearly not smaller than 6. So the -1 is a big fat no. All right, how about 0? -7 times 0 is 0. Is 13 less than 6? That is another big fat no. Why do they call it a big fat no? All right. 1. -7 times 1 is -7. 13 minus 7 is 6. Is 6 less than? No, but it is equal to 6. So that is a skinny yes? I don't know. And then the last one, 3. -7 times 3 is -21. 13 minus 21, -8. And -8 is clearly smaller than +6. So that's a yes. So the answers were no, no, yes, yes. Make sense? Okay, so it looks like we're starting off pretty easy. All right, I won't insult you with any more questions like that because those are the easy ones. The last two, depending upon how much you recall from the previous one, Madison and Rio, I don't know if you've been taught this before. I know I taught it in pre-algebra last year, but we're going to graph inequalities and we're going to write inequalities from a given graph. Okay, so here we go. Graphing solutions. For equalities, if the answer is x equals 3, it would be kind of, I don't know, boring to graph the answer. There's the answer. X is the value 3. There's one answer there, right? For quadratics, of course, you might potentially get 2 answers, so there might be 2 dots. But it's kind of boring for equalities. For inequalities, though, well, how many solutions are there to that one inequality? Well, 2 is smaller, 1 is small, -1, 0.035. The point I'm trying to make here is that there is an infinite number of values that are smaller than 3. So it turns out we like to graph solutions because the graph shows you all the solutions. Just like on linear equations, last chapter, that line represents all the solutions. Well, we're going to do the same thing. There's going to be a graph that represents all the solutions to the given inequality. All right, there are steps. Some math teachers go into great detail on this. I'm going to give it to you pretty simple. So if you need to write the steps down, write it down. Hopefully you remember this from last year. So to graph this inequality, step one, we'll make a number line. A number line is a line, so I need arrows on the two ends. All right, I want you to draw a tick mark. In other words, I want you to put one tick mark smack dab in the middle. Now, you've probably been used to seeing number lines where 0 is in the middle. 0 does not have to be in the middle of any number line. Okay? So, one tick mark. Now, look at your inequality. There is only one number there, and that number is 3. 3 goes in the middle. Okay? Now, some math teachers would have you put in more numbers. So it's obvious that on a number line, as the numbers go to the right, they get bigger. So 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And as it goes to the left, they get smaller. So 2, 1, 0, -1. I don't require that. Why? It's obvious. We've been drawing number lines for a number of years. You're in Algebra 1. I don't need any more numbers. It's a number line. All right, so the next step, it's not two steps, it's really just one step. There's going to be two parts to it. All right, I want you to put an open circle around that tick mark if the symbol of the inequality is less than or greater than. I want you to put a closed circle, in other words, a filled in circle, if it's less than or equal to or greater than equal to. So we look at an inequality. It is a less than or equal to, so therefore we want to put an open circle. Here's what that means. An open circle means the solutions do not include the number 3. If it was less than or equal to or greater than equal to, it would mean the solutions include the value 3. The last step is we're going to shade left or right, and here's what you need to look. I'm going to read that inequality from left to right, or from variable to number, As I read that what's in yellow there, the inequality from variable to number, so in this case left to right, it says x is smaller than 3. Well, if x is smaller than 3, that means all the solutions are smaller than 3. On our number line, where are the answers that are smaller than 3? Well, that's to the left. And yes, you can make a little wiggly line like that. Okay. Well, there you go. You've now graphed your first inequality. Remember that from last year? Hopefully, Madison, Rio, this isn't brand new to you. All right, let's do another one. N less than 1. Step number 1, draw a number line. Step number 2, put a tick mark. Step number 3, the number in the inequality goes right there. It's not going to be 0. Other math teachers would have you write numbers bigger than 1, smaller than 1, but it's a number line, people. We don't need to do that. We know where those numbers are. All right, open or closed circle. It is an open circle if it's strictly less than or greater than. If it's less than or equal to or greater than equal to, we put a closed circle. The open circle means include the value, the open circle means do not include 1 in your answers. A closed circle means to include 1 in your answers. So 1 is not smaller than 1, so we don't include 1, that's why it's an open circle. Shade left, shade right, we're going to shade left. Why? As we read the inequality, what's in yellow, from variable to number, that represents the solutions. So all the solutions to that inequality are smaller than 1. Does that make sense? All right, let's do one more. All right, let's see. A is greater than or equal to 0. Number line, tick mark, 0. Okay, open or closed circle. Yeah, this one is a closed circle. That means we're going to include 0. 0 is greater than and or equal to. It's equal to 0. So that means 0 is part of our solution set. To know which side we shade, left or right, we read the inequality from variable to number, in this case, left or right. It says A is greater than or equal to 0, or the solutions are greater than or equal to 0. Where are the numbers that are greater than or equal to 0? That would be to the right of 0. That would include 1 or 0.5 or a billion or McKinley. Yeah, that number as well too. Okay. Now, what would happen if I wrote it backwards, right? In other words, remember we can flip this around. Would the graph look the same? Well, the answer is it would look the same. Now, remember, we're going to read it from variable to number, so that for that second one, it says A is greater than or equal to 0. Well, if A is greater than or equal to 0, then the solutions are to the right of 0. Okay, to include 0 because it's equal to as well. Make sense? If not, go ahead and rewind, play all 3 examples again for you, and once you have that down, move to the next slide. All right, for us, we are now going to graph those two. There's two inequalities there, so you're going to wind up with two graphs. Now, clearly, I can't have you write the graph in Google Forms. So what I want you to do is get to your answer and then check the answer, and then Google Form just simply says, "Do your graphs look like, or do your graphs look like my graphs?" Okay, so here are your two answers. Here are your two. For the first one, it says f is greater than -3. So open circle on -3, shade right. So all the numbers that are bigger than -3. For the second one, as I read it from variable to number, from variable, so x is less than or equal to -2. Where the numbers that are smaller than -2, those are to the left of -2, but it does say less than or equal to, so I need to put a closed circle. Okay, makes sense? If not, rewind, watch the videos again until it makes sense, or send me an email, ask me questions. Okay, we're moving on. So we just did graph the inequality. Now we're going to do the opposite. Get it? Okay. All right, so I'm going to give you a graph. There's the graph. You're going to write the inequality. You're going to write the inequality. All right, so here's how it's done. There's steps involved. First step is to pick a letter, any one of the letters. I'm going to pick, I don't know, I'll pick G. Usually I pick X. Second thing, you're going to write the number that's underneath the circle, closed or open. Write the number that's underneath. And it doesn't matter which side of the G you put it on. I'm boring, lazy. I'm always going to put it on the right side. Okay? Step number 3, remember, you put an open circle for less than or equal to, you put a closed circle for greater than or equal to, or less than or equal to. So we know that it's a closed circle. So the answer is either going to be less than or equal to or greater than or equal to. So your job now is to pick the correct sign. So look at the graph. Does it say the solutions are bigger or smaller than 13? Well, once again, the numbers that are bigger than 13 are to the right. The numbers that are smaller than 13 are to the left. So we're going to pick less than or equal to. Why? Because that's what the graph tells us. Okay, it says all the answers are smaller than or equal to 13. Okay, makes sense? So that's your answer. Another example. Okay, there's your graph. Step number 1, pick a letter. All right, apparently I like G this time. Write the number. There's only one number there, -1. If you have a whole number, you will tonight. If you have a whole number line, just pick the number underneath the circle. Okay, we're going to either consider it's less than or equal to or greater than or equal to. Hey, solid circle, so it's less than or equal to, greater than or equal to. Now, to pick the correct sign, look at the shading. I'm shading to the right there. Any number to the right of the circle is bigger than -1. So that means G is bigger than or equal to -1. Make sense? Okay. For those of you that have never done this before or need some practice on it, rewind, watch my 2 examples before you move on to the next slide. All right. Once again, there are 2 questions there. So how do you type in less than or equal to into Google Forms? So literally less than and then put an equal sign, okay, or greater than equal sign. If it's strictly greater or strictly less, then you're able to write that, okay? So there are 2 graphs. Write the answer to those 2 graphs into Google Forms and pause the video, come back, and then check. How'd you do? All right, the first one, G is less than 11. If you put the 11 first and the G on the right of that, then you would say, if you read it from left to right, you would say 11 is greater than G. Okay. Second one, X is greater than or equal to -7. Closed circle, shade right. So all the solutions are bigger than -7. Okay. If you wrote this the -7 first and the X second, then it would be -7 is less than or equal to X or G, whatever value you picked. Hey, that seemed like a pretty quick class. I don't know if it, well, it says 24 minutes. Okay. Well, there are the 4 objectives. We did it. Your homework tonight, remember, look at the bottom of the Google Forms. Click on that link. It'll pop open the worksheet. Go ahead and do that. You can print it off or do it on a separate sheet of paper. I don't care. We're not turning in homework. You're simply going to grade it tomorrow. All right, Isabel, where's your motivation at? How about the rest of you? All right, hopefully you guys are staying motivated. You're doing your work. I really need you to be, semi-adults here and make sure you are doing your work. It will be very easy to blow this whole thing off. Please do not do this. The way that you're going to stay ahead, it's critical for your future, is to actually do your work. So go ahead and do your work. Email me if you have any questions, and I will see you guys tomorrow.